Welcome to the CTOX podcast. This is the place to be if you're a technology leader navigating the fractional CTO landscape. I'm Marisa Brassfield, joined by Lior Weinstein, the visionary behind CTOX.
Here, we cut through the noise to deliver actionable insights for CTOs at every stage, whether you're looking at your first five-figure client or actively building systems to scale.
That's right. You'll learn principles, not just tactics, to transform your technical expertise into a thriving fractional practice. Let's dig in. Welcome back to another episode of the CTOX podcast. Today, Lior and I will be discussing how to choose a great niche for your fractional CTO business. Lior, I would love if we could kick off with a definition of niche. When a lot of people hear this word, they think about an industry. Let's set them straight.
Yeah, usually, when people come into the program and we ask them, hey, what's their niche? And they tell us something like it's healthcare or manufacturing or AI transformation or cybersecurity breaches. And I tell them no. So a few clarifications. One is a niche is not an industry. Healthcare is an industry. And a niche is not a problem. AI transformation or cyber is a problem. We like to think about a niche as people, right? And that means for our purposes, we kind of say, a niche means once you say those words, you're basically appealing to a list of about 200 to 2,000 companies or potential clients, potential people. If it's bigger than that, there's operational problems that we'll talk about. But it's a list of people, a list of companies that share the same sort of problems and would respond to the same kind of messaging in a way that you can position yourself as a trusted provider, a trusted solution.
Beautiful. And there's a nuance here, which is the paradox of choice. And I'd love for you to talk and tease that out a little bit.
Yeah, being everything to everyone results in being nothing to anyone. Narrowing your focus expands your opportunities. We kind of say, a lot of CTOs come into the program that we, even if they don't, just CTOs that we meet, and they say, oh, I've done so many things. I've been in so many industries. I've solved so many problems, and I can really do anything. And I tell them, yes, this is wonderful and very useful from a capability standpoint, but actually super harmful from a sales and marketing perspective. So we like to say the niche increases your conversion rate, right? It's not about reducing your opportunity. It's about increasing your odds of when you pitch a potential prospect to actually close them and have them become your client rather than limit, all the types of engagements that you can have.
Yeah, and if you're listening and you're hearing and you're thinking, well, I'm industry agnostic, I'd love, Lior, for you to share the restaurant story because this one really drives it home.
Yeah, so we kind of explain. Here's the thing about marketing and sales, right? And to be fair, Lior doesn't have an industry. Lior doesn't have a niche. I am just like you. I have solved multiple problems. Very horizontal, but you know what else Lior doesn't have? A problem with leads and prospect opportunities. So if I raise my hand at this point with my reputation, my network that I worked very hard over the years to cultivate, I can get projects and clients if I want to. In lieu of that, focusing really helps marketing and sales in building that original system. So one of the challenges with sales and marketing is you need to build trust and relevancy, and these are different things. So a way to think about it is, let's say you have a five-star restaurant in, insert your city, wherever you are. And it has 1,000 five-star reviews, takes you 6 months to get a reservation. And you're so excited, you finally come in, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Apparently designed by the best architect in the world. And it smells amazing, looks amazing, super polished. They're congratulating you for coming in. They were aware of your reservation for the past 6 months, and they're thanking you for your wait time. You go into your table, you're just astonished. And you're sat down, you get a drink of water, and the server looks at you and tells you, what would you like to have tonight? You're probably going to look up and ask, what do you got? What do you have? And they're going to tell you, well, we can make whatever you want. We have the best chefs in the back, all of them 3-star Michelin chefs, just there in the kitchen waiting to make the best meal of your life. And you realize in that freeze frame, in that moment, trust is not the issue. All your spidey senses are telling you this place is amazing. The reviews that you've read online, that you heard from friends, the wait time, how the place looks, how everybody's behaving, how the place smells. Everything is telling you from a trust perspective that this is a top-notch institution and you will have a great experience. But in that same moment, you have zero relevancy. You don't know what to do. Is this a 4-hour, $1,000 per head meal? Is this pita and falafel? Are we doing desserts? You have no idea. And this is the problem and the opportunity when people come into the market and they say, oh, I can do whatever you want, right? I can solve whatever you want. The prospect doesn't know how to think about you. So versus kind of saying, oh yeah, I'm a fractional CTO for immigration law firms. I'm a fractional CTO for $20 to $50 million rubber manufacturers, whatever that is. As soon as you have some definition, then people can immediately say, oh yeah, that's the guy for me. Now, again, it's not a capability thing. It's a trust thing that your non-technical prospect can understand if you're relevant to them. And this is really a big reason why we recommend there's a lot of value early on to build and concentrate your energy and build your clientele to focus on a niche, a well-defined one.
It's so funny. As you were talking about the restaurant and the wait time, I'm like, can we go there? I can't wait to go there. And then as soon as you went to the moment where like we can make anything, I felt myself freeze and I'm like, I'm instantly overwhelmed. And that's what happens in the conversations with prospects. They don't know what to talk to you about. And a lot of the CEOs that our CTOs will be working with, like not all of them are technical. So they don't really know how to have that technical conversation anyway. So having a niche gives them something to anchor onto.
I'm sure a lot of CTOs find this, this is not a lack. You network with people and you meet them at conferences and you're like, man, they never call me back. And it's not because they don't trust you. They just don't know how to think about you, right? So the other things restaurants do very well is menu, right? This is exactly why even in the best restaurants in the world, right? Actually, some of them, you kind of know ahead of time how the menu works. Best restaurants in the world and most restaurants in the world have a menu because it creates an interface. It creates a way for you to think about your experience in this establishment. And they also even lay it out, right? Appetizers, entrees, desserts, right? It's not only giving you stuff that you can ask for them, they're also guiding you into how your experience with them is going to work out. Now, like any restaurant, you can decide once you order, gluten-free, sauce on the side, do this, do that. No problem customizing. But the menu item actually makes it easier for you to start the conversation. So not only we recommend you establish a niche, but also establish a menu with, whatever it is you want to sell as a fractional CTO. And we have, some really great common recommendations we give to people when they work with us.
Beautiful. And I'm wondering, having a niche gives you the opportunity to make data-driven decisions. And I'd love for you to talk about some of the market signals you might get when you declare a niche.
A good niche gives you kind of instant feedback. And so in a few ways, if you think about, with marketing and sales, we kind of say it's not rocket science, but it is science. There's a certain order of operations you need to do. And if you do your job very well on your niche definition, you instantly get some feedback and signal from the market if it's interesting or not. If you just come in and say, fractional CTO for manufacturers, well, you're going to try to reach out to prospects, right? However it is you do it, on LinkedIn, on email, on networking events, it doesn't matter how. But if you start saying what you do and people are not lighting up and like, oh, I'm that, I want to talk to you, then you're going to have a pretty hard time with the amount of meetings and the amount of messages that you're going to need to send before you're going to get prospects and eventually contracts. So a well-defined niche, though, when you start talking about it, instantly gets you signal if people want to work with you or not, because they're saying, yes, I have that problem. Some CTOs in our program have very interesting ones. Some of them, one of my favorite examples is somebody came in and his niche was poultry growers, so chicken growers, chicken farmers, under 1 billion birds a year.
I knew you were going to say that one.
I just love that. I love that example so much because there's only a few hundred of them, but all of them have the same problem. Right? It's the same like IoT stuff and USDA compliance reporting and ERP, inventory issues and transportation and revenue, like accounting challenges. It's the same templated problem, but can you imagine when you pitch that kind of a CEO? Now, that CEO, he's also an agricultural CEO. He's also a small to mid-sized business, right? He's also family owned. All these other definitions, but can you imagine if you have a conversation with them and you say, oh, I'm a fractional CTO for chicken growers under 1 billion birds a year, they're going to light up. They're going to be like, yes, I am literally that, it feels to them like you're immediately relevant and you can solve their problems, versus just saying, I'm a fractional CTO that's very smart. Even if you said that in agriculture, they don't self-identify as agriculture, even though categorically from a classification they're thinking themselves as chicken growers under 1 billion birds a year to differentiate from 50 million birds and to differentiate from 10 billion birds.
Or cattle, or, there's all these
That's
different,
it.
and each one has its unique problem set. But yeah, that conversation, it's like, oh, yeah, I've arrived at the right place. And the best positioning with a client is when a prospect comes to you and says, I already know I want to work with you. And that's one of the advantages of this niche declaration and really owning it, is that trust by association. But once they become clients, there are also some distinct advantages of having a well-defined niche. And one of them is on just the kinds of conversations you have every day and how you can define and deliver your services. Would love to have you touch on that.
Yeah, so like I said, Lior doesn't have a niche or an industry. And to be honest, if you had seen Lior's day and schedule, I think most people would get overwhelmed. And the reason is because I can have one meeting at noon that talks about, cyber issues that we're doing in this healthcare company. And 2 hours later, work on AI agents for HR recruitment, and very different problems, very different customers, very different technologies, very different systems. Within a niche, though, you basically get to solve the same problem in different continuums of the problem, right? If you're very well defined, you already know the systems, you know the processes, you know the gaps, and you have the playbooks. So your meetings, your day-to-day, and before that, your pitch and confidence that you can give to people that you can solve the problem are absolute. And it really streamlines operationally how you solve the problem and how you communicate with the people, and also your basically playbooks. You can actually have playbooks that are effective and consistent, and the more companies you solve within the niche, those playbooks get better. Also, some other side benefit of developing your own IP, and for some people that want to build a practice, that's the way to do it. It's much easier to sell a practice, a fractional CTO practice that does immigration law firms, rather than just selling a fractional CTO practice that's a generic professional services company.
Yeah, great point. And it's funny because, I think you enjoy the variety and working across multiple domains, but not everybody does. Not everyone will enjoy and get energized by that kind of context switching. So that's another reason to choose a niche and define one. And you also mentioned, for those who are building towards a practice model, having that niche declaration really makes you the go-to. And I imagine as you build up your client base, at some point there's that tipping point in reputation where the clients come to you and they have their hands raised and they're ready to go, and you're part of their research. You've become the destination.
And reputationally also, if you solve the problem for 3 or 10 clients, you just become that person, right? So you're the person that can be the fractional CTO for those clients, and all the testimonials mean something. All the references mean something, because when somebody looks at it online or somebody even does reference checks, they're talking to other people like them as opposed to just CEOs that have a problem.
Yeah. So for those who are perhaps in the industry agnostic camp, who played this podcast, who are listening, what are some frames that you would recommend for them to consider when hearing this and going, hey, maybe I should niche down?
So I think assuming you have challenges with prospect development and lead development, or if you have operational challenges, some CTOs we meet are actually pretty good. They're making $400,000, $500,000 a year, but they're working 80, 90-hour weeks because of the variety of clients they have and the constant need to reinvent operationally the plans and what they do and how to service them. So assuming you don't have an operational problem, assuming you have an operational problem, or you have a marketing kind of pipeline problem, and you don't love the concept of declaring and committing to a niche, we recommend you date a niche, right? So here's the reality. We don't know if any particular niche has revenue and has enough of a problem. So before committing to one, we recommend dating one, which is to say all of the activities you're going to do on a niche after you self-define that you want to service one are going to be the same. You're going to figure out who are those people that are related to that niche, right? Chicken growers under 1 billion birds a year, plastic manufacturers under $100 million in revenue and so on in the Southeast. get a list of those people, find them, find where they exist. Are they on the phone waiting for your call? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they in some kind of a conference or group that you can physically walk into? Talk to them. Once you're well defined and you literally can come into a room and say, I'm a fractional CTO for immigration law firms under $10 million in revenue, and you talk to 20 of them and all 20 are just like giving you nothing, they're like, they have no interest, you can safely move on. But if your niche or industry is 10,000 people, 20,000 people, and you only spoke with 20, well, you don't know. Maybe you spoke with the wrong 20. So we recommend really nail down a starting label, talk to 10, 20 people in that niche, assuming it's well defined. So it's that potential 200 to 2,000, and just see if you get traction. And if not, move on.
Great points and highly actionable. That wraps up another episode of the CTOX podcast. We hope today's conversation gave you the tools and inspiration to advance your journey as a fractional CTO.
And don't forget, if you want more in-depth support or to connect with our community of fellow fractional CTOs, visit us at ctox.com.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the CTOX podcast.